All right. So I appreciate the opportunity to do this. It's been a couple of years, like so many things, with COVID and not being on campus. So I'm glad we get to do this, at least virtually. I think, there we go. I'm just gonna shrink that a little bit. Okay, so I want to talk just a little bit about our partnership with campus and a little bit about our structure. I know there's been some new people who have come and gone over the last couple of years, both on our team as well as on campus, and a lot of growth has happened in our organization as well. So I just thought it would be a good opportunity to share some of that with you guys. So I want to start just kind of some building blocks, really. So thinking about really what is the mission of the foundation. And our mission is building enduring relationships that maximize advocacy and philanthropy to support North Dakota State University. So we're passionate about what we do, and what we really enjoy is bringing together those who are passionate about the institution and want to make a difference with the kind of the needs and the wishes and the dreams of our campus partners. And so when we can bring together alumni and supporters who have that passion and the resources, and we can bring that together with some of your dreams, it's really a great opportunity. We like to say that's where the magic happens, is where those two things intersect. I think we know today, in an increasing time of decreasing state and federal resources, that philanthropy has never been more important. And so we really appreciate our partnership with campus. I have a little bit of a historical perspective. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on who I am, but I am an alum from NDSU, 1987. I graduated College of Engineering. We're going to back up a slide there, though. We'll stay on the mission slide for a while. So graduated from College of Engineering 1987 with a master's degree in community and regional planning. That's a program that's no longer around, but proud to be an alum from that college. Had a career where I fell into fundraising and continued in that area. And then I came back in 2014. I came back as a director of development on campus, and I worked for two colleges, College of Science and Math, as well as the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. So really enjoyed that opportunity. I can tell you in the 7 years that I've been around, how we work with campus has changed dramatically. I got a little bit of a peek being housed in two colleges about the type of partnership that can evolve when you have directors of development embedded with campus. And so that's really kind of, as we've grown over the years, that's really been something that's been important to us, is to continue that close partnership. So a lot of what I want to talk about today is that partnership and how we work together. We believe in developing partnerships with teamwork, accountability, and transparency. And if you go to the NDSUfoundation.com website, there's a page on there that you can click on. It's called Resources. And you'll see there's quite a bit of transparency there about whether it's about gift fees, about fund guidelines for our campus partners, how they can draw down funds in various accounts. So we really try to be very forward facing in how we operate and what we believe both our campus partners and our donors should know about the work we do and how we do it. Fundamentally, with this building of relationships, what we think is so important is stewardship, good communication with both campus and our donors. And then also, we really believe that we are in service to advance the mission of a student-focused land-grant research university. So that's kind of those are sort of our foundational beliefs and our mission. Jess, if you just want to go back to the screen where it's just people, would be great. We can kind of leave the mission page there. So some of the things that might be of interest for you guys to know is that we are a private nonprofit. We're what's called a university affiliated foundation. So there are all, just as there are all different structures of colleges and universities and tech schools and all kinds of different post-secondary education, there are a lot of different varieties in how foundations are structured. And we're what's called a university affiliated foundation, which means we're a private nonprofit, but our sole mission and purpose is to support the university. And what that means is we're a quasi state agency. And in North Dakota, what that means is we have to abide by a lot of the same things that the university does, and that includes things like open records. So one of the questions that sometimes comes up to us about that is what about donor information? And so you may notice that we're quite careful about donor information. From time to time, we get requests from campus for names and things of that nature. We are careful that anything that's going to be public, unless we have the donor's permission, we're not releasing their name. When it comes to things like communication with our alumni and donors, we very much want to work in partnership with campus in doing that. And so one of the things that we have in our agreement, we actually have a contract with campus, but one of the things that we have in that agreement is we actually maintain the database for the university once somebody graduates. So, I can think about in the past, people might have had what we would have called a shadow database. Like they're thinking like, oh, I'd like to email alumni from my college or from my department or something. I'd like to tell them what's going on or send a newsletter. So in the past, it may be that there was a shadow database that people were trying to maintain on campus. So one of the things that's really great about our partnership with the institution is we maintain the database. We also subscribe to a number of different services and things of that nature that help us keep the addresses and things of that nature updated. So you guys don't have to worry about that. But when you do want to send an email out to, or a newsletter or something of that nature to folks that you think it's important to communicate with, then you're able to work with us to get that information, and then working together, we can help you get those emails out and get to the folks that you want to contact. So we think that's another area of a nice partnership where we can work together, and hopefully that takes a few things off our campus partners' plates. Most of our staff, we have 50 staff now at the foundation. So when I came in 2014, I think there were roughly 25, 28. I know when John Glover, our president and CEO, came, there were 28 employees here at the foundation. We now have 50 employees. So not quite doubled in size, but we've grown dramatically over the last 5 to 6 years. That is quite a lot of growth and change in our organization. So if you feel like maybe you don't know who people are over here so much anymore, I hope that you'll reach out to us, make yourselves known. There are 25 employees out of those 50 that are on the development team itself. So half of the organization is in the development team. And then of those 25, approximately 18 of them, including John and myself, are direct fundraisers. So we're the folks that are face-to-face, getting out there with alumni, meeting with them, talking with them about the types of gifts that they're interested in. But just to kind of give you a little overview about what the rest of the development team looks like. In these 18 gift officers, we have a couple of colleges that have multiple gift officers. We have 2 in the College of Business, we have 2 in the College of Engineering, and we have 3 gift officers that are in agriculture, food systems, and natural resources. So quite a few gift officers just there. We also have gift officers, 1 each in College of Health Professions, Human Sciences and Education, AHSS, and then also College of Science and Math. I want to point out too that we have a partnership in working with there are a few gift officers that are employed by campus. So some of you might know Bill Law, who works in performing arts. He kind of wears 2 hats in his position, but a part of his responsibility is fundraising also. And so one of the things we think is so important is with our campus partners who are doing fundraising, we treat them like, we work with them like they were our gift officer also. So we make sure they have all the same access to the information that we have, that they're included in all the information and events that we have. We want to support their efforts to be successful as well. And then there are 3 fundraisers that are in athletics. 1 is housed in the Twin Cities, and then 2 here in Fargo. So, who are some of the other folks on the development team? So you might guess that it takes a little bit to support that network of folks that are going out and meeting with donors and so forth. So we have a development operations team, and that includes our development coordinators, and they're really those folks that anything they can do to help our folks be out on the road, out with donors, being successful, putting together information packages, stewardship gifts for folks. They're really the folks that make it possible to be out as much as we are, and we very much appreciate that support. We also have prospect management, and prospect management is kind of that strategic position that works with each of our gift officers that helps them manage what we call a portfolio. So each of our gift officers has a group of people that they're working with, which is also very strategic. And then we have the events team. So if you have participated in any events, like we have Harvest Bowl coming up this week. So that would be an example of groundbreaking for the Peltier complex. So our events team is the one that helps organize those types of activities. So you can see we have a diverse team. That's just the development team. So I'm not even talking about our information services, which includes prospect research or our accounting or any of those folks, many of whom our campus partners have an opportunity to interface with in a variety of different opportunities and conversations. I do want to point out one other thing. Our directors of development are mostly housed in the colleges. Their offices are actually on campus. And then a lot of our staff is here at the McGovern Alumni Center. The McGovern Alumni Center is actually managed by Memorial Union staff. So just kind of a shout out to folks that if you need a space to meet, to bring together students, if you're bringing folks in for some reason, a department meeting, or you're just looking for some nice space to work with, we have a lot of technology here as well. And just know that you can access that space by working through the Memorial Union, the same as you do anybody else, any of the other spaces on campus that you might want to access. And we hope we'll see you over here. We really do think we have a lovely facility here. So we'd be excited to see you.
Monique, can I stop? I apologize for interrupting you. Can you see what I'm sharing?
I can.
Okay, am I on the right slide for you?
That's fine. I'm going to get there. I'm
Okay.
going to talk about a little bit about our work together. And this is really where I want to talk about what are the results of our work together, because this really kind of shows, there's a number of slides here, some that people may have seen before if they've heard John Glover speak, but I still think it's worth showing to folks again about because we are working differently, because we have grown our team, and because we work differently with you. These are the types of results that we're getting with the work that's being done. So the next thing I want to jump to is just kind of our partnership together and things that have been so important in that. So we really do view this as a partnership. I think historically, when I first came to my position, I think there was very much the foundation did their thing, and the university did its thing, and there were certainly points of coordination or collaboration, but there wasn't as much work together as maybe could have been advantageous. And really that has, I think, more to do with how our industry has grown and changed over the years, and not kind of putting different work or activities in silos, maybe as might have been done in past years. So I think even just as in our own industry has grown and changed, how important it is and how much we recognize where relationships start with our alumni and how we want to work together with you to be able to bring about some pretty cool things. So a couple of types of gifts that I wanted to talk about where we can be helpful and work together. So we generally think about, if you've paid attention at all to the campaign, $456 million and counting in the campaign. So we're pretty excited about that. Generally speaking, gifts fall into kind of a couple of different buckets. One would be student support or scholarships primarily. One would be faculty support. Those include things like chairs, professorships, fellowships, those types of things. facilities, and then programs. So those are sort of the four buckets that things fall into. And then also even within that, the funds themselves fall into kind of two camps. One is expendable funds, which is essentially I write a check today, I give it to the foundation, and I expect that money to go over to campus today and be spent. As opposed to an endowment, which is more like a savings account. So it's where gifts are obtained in working with the donor, and then those dollars are invested, and then a percentage is paid out to campus each year for use. But the intent is really that those funds will go on in perpetuity. So two different types of funds and four different areas primarily that we work with those on. In the campaign itself, we've had tremendous success in almost every area, all four of those areas. We've had tremendous success and went beyond what our goals are in every area except faculty support. And as a campus, NDSU is historically not had, it's just not an area that was ever really worked on very significantly or consistently with regard to developing those faculty fellowships and professorships and chair positions. So as a result, there's really very few on campus. I think in total, true what we consider those named faculty positions, I believe there's about 13 total, and they fall within a funding range of if they're endowed, about $750,000 for the endowment. If it's a professorship, they are in that $1 million to $1.5 million range. And if it's a chair or a deanship, then you're talking really about gifts or endowments that are in that 2 to 3 million and above range. So one example I would give you is, for instance, the Neil Goodmusted chair in potato pathology. That was really one of the first, that one, and then Bill Wilson's CHS chair in risk management and trading were among kind of the early endowed faculty positions of that type. And so it was really a goal of ours in this campaign to begin to get more of those, and we had some success. But one of the things that we learned is that there was definitely a learning curve, both on campus and in having a shared understanding about what those were and how they could be used and how to talk about them with folks. And then also with our donors, because there were not, I mean, scholarships, like everybody knows what a scholarship is, and maybe they got one. But it was a little bit higher hurdle to clear to begin to explain to donors about what named faculty positions were and how they could really be strategic and beneficial for the institution. So we have had great success in that area. I know 13 doesn't sound like a huge number, but considering that there were fewer than you could count on one hand when we first started, that's really, I mean, it's more than double what we had before. So it's not everything that we want. It's not, we certainly have not captured the pinnacle of success in that area, but we're really committed to continuing to work to increase and improve the resources that are available for faculty. And again, while we're not on campus and we're not subject to the same types of budget cuts and things like that, we certainly have appreciation for how that impacts the work that you all do and our ability to go and look for resources to help support those areas. Before I move on, I just want to ask real quickly if there are any questions about the different types of funds or the areas that they go to. Okay. So what does our work together look like? One thing that's important to understand is who sets the priorities for fundraising. I can tell you, having been a fundraiser on campus, and I know our team members that are over there, there is no shortage of ideas about what people could use money for. And they're everything from $100 items to multi-thousands and $1 million items. Our team, our directors of development, what they work on are what we call major gifts. And major gifts are gifts of $25,000 or above. And they also work on leadership gifts, which are gifts of $1 million or more. And then we're also instituting and growing our principal gifts area, which are gifts of 3 million and above. So that's really kind of where our staff focuses its time. When you consider all the need there is and that we have 18 fundraisers, it's really not possible for us to be focusing time on gifts or projects that are of a smaller size than that. I think the other thing that's important for folks to understand, unless you do development work, folks don't always understand that it takes as much time and effort to raise $1,000 sometimes as it does $100,000. And in fact, sometimes I would argue that trying to get $100,000 from somebody can sometimes be a little bit easier than trying to get $1,000 from somebody else. So we want to hear your great ideas. It's important for all of our gift officers to have that kind of information in their back pocket, because we never know when we go out to do a visit what somebody might be interested in. But we would also ask for understanding that the types of gifts that we need to be spending our time on are of a certain level. And probably among the least successful efforts is when somebody comes to us and says, well, I need $25,000, but I think we can get it from 25 people. Again, that kind of goes back to that time and effort that's expended in order to secure those resources. So, but the great thing is when we do know what the needs are, we never know what we're walking into when we sit down in somebody's living room with them and discover, you know, what are the things that they're interested and passionate about. So who is deciding on those priorities for the university? It is the president. Typically, the president is setting sort of a higher, excuse me, just a second. So kind of setting those higher level priorities is, so for the campaign where we were focusing our time in those 4 buckets, that was very much set from the president's office, and then working with the provost. And then on the kind of the local level, if you will, then it is our academic partners in the colleges or the different focus areas. It might be the library or some other areas. But with regard to our gift officers that are in academic units, it's the dean that sets the priorities for the fundraising efforts. And then our staff kind of works with the deans from there and department chairs. Doesn't mean we aren't interested in or don't consider other ideas. But probably if you go to a gift officer and you're not the dean and you say, hey, I'd like you to do fundraising for X, they're probably going to ask you, have you talked to your department chair? And if you're the department chair, they're probably going to ask you, have you talked to your dean about this, to make sure that it kind of falls in alignment with the direction they're trying to go as an organization. So kind of the fun thing, like how can you help and how can we help you? Where you can help is you guys are the ones that are frontline every day with the students in the classroom. And oftentimes what we know is as people graduate and go into their careers, many times students and alumni will maintain contact with advisors, a favorite teacher, a professor. Sometimes it's somebody in an office, admin support person that for whatever reason they developed a working relationship with or found a particular support there. So you guys know who we should be talking to. On our end, we have prospect research. And I think we all know in today's day and age, there is way more out there on the internet than you could possibly imagine. About any one of us, and whether it's property that's owned or cars, or if you've contributed to a political campaign or I mean, there's just a ton of information that's out there. And we have a lot of tools that we use to try to point us in the direction of the 100,000 people in our database. Who should we be talking to? Because I've only got 18 gift officers and we can't talk to 100,000 people. So we use the data as much as we can, but we also rely on you guys to let us know who you have a relationship with, what you know about them, and who we should be talking to. So in our system, it may still show that somebody's working their way up at some company, and you may have contact with them, and you may know that they're actually the president of the company. They own a private plane. They were just back in Fargo last week visiting you and wanted to see whatever. Like, absolutely tell your gift officer. If you don't have a gift officer in your area, tell Matt's on the call here. He's one of our supervisors. But let us know, because that's all information that goes into helping us discern who we should talk to make the best use of our time and maximize the opportunity for resources for your programs. An easy thing to do, please send thank yous. The number one complaint we have from donors is that they don't know if the money that they donated has been used. They don't know how it's been used. They don't know if it was received by the unit. They get a receipt and a thank you from us, but they don't know kind of what happens to it after that. Or if it's a scholarship, please help your students. Encourage them to send thank yous. If you're a department chair, I know that I've seen some of your desks, and your desks are overflowing with all kinds of paper and things that you need to do. But if I could just ask one thing of you, to carve out a little bit of time each week to send some thank yous, that would be phenomenal, because it's the number one complaint we hear from donors. And it is the most meaningful thing that you can do to move a donor's heart to think about what they might else want to do. Some donors make a gift as a test. So an example, one of my favorite examples early in my career at NDSU that I got a chance to work on, the estate gift. But through that, I learned the story of Jim Falk's gift to the Department of Visual Arts, and had the chance to work with a former department chair, Wayne Tullifson. So Wayne had shared with me the story when he was a new department chair, that he got a gift for $25 from this guy, Jim Falk, and he didn't know him from anybody. And he just thought, well, I'll send him a thank you note. And at the time, his class was doing, I think he said it was a calendar. They put together a calendar as a fundraiser. So they had taken student art, they had put it into a calendar, and they had these leftover pages. And so he said, I remember him telling me, he says, I can't believe what hubris I had. I took one of these pages that was left from the student calendar, and I wrote this thank you note, but I also explained to Jim about the technique, and that he didn't know anything about Jim, or that Jim was an artist, by the way. And so he's explaining all these things to Jim, and he sends it off. Well, it started kind of a pen pal relationship back and forth over the years. Fast forward, Jim has become a very successful artist in his own right. He passes away, and he leaves his entire estate to NDSU. He left over $3 million to NDSU, including his entire art collection. And it happened in part because of a thank you note that a department chair took the time to send. Is every thank you note going to result in a $3 million gift? No. But the challenge for us is we never know which one will. And we know that all donors, regardless of how they give or what they give, if they have a good experience, they will continue to come back and support us. And what we want to do is we want to create that great experience, and we want to do that with you. So how do you create these great experiences for other donors? One is, if you are in a position where you have authority over a fund in your department, in your college, in your wherever, but you have a foundation fund. Boy, in North Dakota, we really have just a culture of save for a rainy day, right? Because resources are limited. We don't know if we're going to get more. What I would tell you is, if you spend the money and we can tell the story to the donor about how you spent the money and the impact that it had, it gives us more fuel and more ammunition to share with donors about why we need them to continue to support that fund or that program and get more money and maybe more donors. So I know it seems counterintuitive in lean times, but I would say spend the money and then tell us the impact so that we can continue to tell your story. We have memorandums of understanding for funds that are established. And sometimes I think none of you and nobody here today, but historically, from time to time, perhaps they were viewed as suggestions for how funds might be used. I think the things we've really tried to educate folks about is our MOUs are actually legally binding documents. St. John University, down towards the cities, had an unfortunate experience in which they had a gift that was given for a scholarship from an individual who lived back east. I think the gift was over $1 million. And he would get information about how the scholarship was administered, and the scholarship was students selected were ones that that particular college or department felt were worthwhile, but they didn't necessarily align with the criteria that the donor had made. And so the donor actually took St. John's to court over that and said that the university was not spending the money in the way that he had entrusted. So an MOU is more than a suggestion. It is actually a legally binding contract, and it is an agreement between the donor, the university, and the foundation about the intent on how to spend the money, and the agreement that it will be spent in that way. Sometimes you find that the criteria that a donor has selected is such that you're simply not able to award it. Or maybe you can only award it every few years. And that's a frustration because you know that there's great need either in your department or for this scholarship. And so we would just ask, make us aware. If you have a fund that you feel constrained in how you're able to administer it, let us know so we can talk about it and see if we can help you either A, understand the criteria differently that gives you the latitude to be able to expend it, or B, if it's something that we need to maybe take a look at going back to the donor and seeing if they would be amenable to making changes to the MOU, then that's something that can also be explored. So we would just encourage you, let us know how it's working for you. The intent, generally speaking, is the donor wants the money to be spent. We want you to spend the money, and you need to spend the money because you have needs for it. So we really want to try to just bring that together. Other things that you can help us with, Giving Day is coming up November 30th. And so Giving Day is really a vehicle that has helped us replace, not completely, but largely our annual giving. We still do annual giving appeals in the spring and the fall, but our main annual giving appeal is Giving Day, which is November 30th. It's a 1 day, I'd say 24 hours, but I think it's 27 hours altogether by the time you figure East Coast to West Coast. And really, we just try to raise as much as we can from alumni at all levels. So this is not necessarily major gifts, although we welcome them. We've actually been surprised the last couple of years, we've gotten even some $10,000 gifts that we had no knowledge of that just came in on Giving Day because somebody wanted to do that. But we have lots of donors. I think we have major gift donors and others that have contributed, I believe, over $1 million or right around $1 million so far in matches and challenges for this year's Giving Day. And so we're really hoping that last year, I think we raised 1.3 million altogether. And certainly this year, we're hoping to raise more like 1.5 million or more. And how do we do that? This is really where you can help us. So if you can help us by helping to get the word out, you can become a campaign ambassador, Giving Day ambassador. If you go to NDSU and sign up to be an ambassador, you can share content from there. I remember a couple of years ago, I had a faculty member say to me, we had a match in their area that we were, looked like we were not going to make. We needed, I think it was a numbers thing. So we needed a certain number more gifts, not necessarily a dollar amount. And when I reached out to that faculty member, they said, well, I'm sure that they're getting, I'm getting all the emails you guys are sending out. So I'm sure our alumni are too. And that's absolutely true. But I can tell you, in my own personal email, I often ignore things that are email that are mass generated, even from organizations that I'm interested in. But if Jess sends me an email or tags me on Facebook or Instagram or something else and says, hey, Monique, don't forget today's Giving Day. I hope you'll go, and then sends me the link and says, I hope you'll make a gift. I am far more likely to respond to Jess than I am a generic email appeal that shows up in my email box, assuming I actually check my email that day, by the way. So that's another area, like help us blow the top off Giving Day this year by spreading the word in however you can to your alums in your area, former coworkers, whatever makes sense for you, but just encourage your participation on that. Some other things that you guys can help us with is we have alums all the time who I am blown away by some of the really amazing alumni that have come from North Dakota State University. They come from small towns in North Dakota, Minnesota, Kansas, other places. They have very unassuming backgrounds. You know, dad was a teacher or, you know, a firefighter or whatever. And they came here. And one example I'm thinking of is an individual, dad was a firefighter, came here to NDSU, became the president and CEO of the third largest architecture firm in the United States and an international firm from here, you know, and we're not very good about bragging on ourselves, right? We're pretty modest, but we have some phenomenal alums in all different fields. Anybody who just this fall at homecoming, if you attended Evening of Distinction, again, I mean, just some phenomenal people from here. If you have a class in which you would be open to having an alum who is an accomplished professional in their field, come and share with students about what that field is like or what they've been able to accomplish and how NDSU helped them do that. That is a phenomenal opportunity. It's a great opportunity for your students to be able to see where they can go in life, whether they want to stay right here in Fargo and work a small business, or whether they want to be on the world stage in their career, whatever that may be. So that's a great opportunity. We have alumni that come back to tour campus. We would love to have your participation in showcasing our institution, because there's some really great stuff here, great accomplishments and some phenomenal faculty. You guys also have a variety of different advisory boards. So if you have an advisory board on campus and you are interested in having alumni be a part of that, we would love the opportunity to participate in that and to bring you names. If they feel engaged, they will want to engage in other ways, including philanthropically. So just encourage folks to help us make those connections as well. Yeah, so let's any questions about anything I've talked about so far, and then I want to jump to the slides here, and then if there are any questions at all, I'm happy to take those. While I was talking about Giving Day, I noticed that Kim Domholt, who is on our staff, she put the link for Giving Day in the chat, so you can certainly pull that up and take advantage of going there. All right, so let's talk about the success that we've had working together, because we have been working differently together since about 2015 or so. So the first slide that you can see on your screen talks about fundraising from 2010 to the current time. So prior to 2015, we were averaging somewhere between 12 to 15, 16 million dollars a year. And that had, I know this only shows going back to 2010, but that actually had been a pretty static number for quite a while before that. A couple of things happened. One is in 2014 was the state challenge grant. So that was the first time the state put funds forward that if we were able to secure private support, they would, and we brought it forward for approval, they would match 50 cents on the dollar. So you can see that certainly provided a little bit of a boost to our fundraising. And the other thing that happened is we started expanding our team. And as we expanded our team, as I said earlier, we put them on campus in the colleges closest to the work that is being done in the institution and the people that are doing it. And we think that's been greatly successful. And so where we went from, let's say 15 million a year on average, other than 2020, since that time, we've been averaging right around 50 million a year. In fact, this year we hit 50 million, I think 4 months before the end of the year, which is phenomenal because the last 2 months of the year are our biggest in terms of fundraising. So I'm excited to see what's happening. I think you can advance that a screen. So I think one of the things, you know, we throw around a lot of big numbers in terms of fundraising and what we're accomplishing. And, you know, sometimes we get requests like, oh, the campaign's raised like, you know, $450 million or whatever. So like, do you have money for X? So the short answer is maybe. The lawyer answer is it depends. And the reason for that is probably 98% of donors want to control how the money is allocated and how it's spent. Most of those gifts are in the areas of scholarship, faculty, and programs. And so you can see in looking at this chart that there's been a steady increase in the amount of funds that have been distributed and dispersed to campus for support that have steadily gone up in that same time frame that we've been increasing our overall fundraising. But this measurement is the support to campus itself, so actual dollars transferred. You can also see in this chart, we pulled out buildings. Buildings are a little deceptive because depends on whether or not there's a project on campus. It's up, it's down. But scholarships, faculty, and programs, these are the things that where we have year over year support. So we thought that was an important way to separate this out. And I just want to call your attention again to this middle bar, the gold bar, and you know, point out that as you go back to, for instance, like 2015, we sent $262,000. That's $1,000 to campus for faculty support. And in 2019, we sent 1.8 million. And I could tell you what we sent in 2020, except I can't figure out how to move the bar here. So I can say it. Here we go. We sent 2.8 million in faculty support last year. So that's pretty dramatic. But the other thing I'd like to point out is the white bar, which is programs. Embedded in that also includes faculty support. And by that, what I mean is a program like the Challey Institute, for instance, that was counted as a programmatic gift because it covered a number of different things in a programmatic area. But embedded in that gift was also faculty support. So I think many of you are probably aware there's like the Challey Fellows as a part of that program, and those are from across campus. So it's not quite as clean a number maybe as we would like, but just know that we've seen tremendous growth in all of these areas. But the programs also include some faculty support, but we fully recognize there's still plenty of work to be done in that area, and we're excited to do it. Can we go ahead and advance to the next? So this is what I was talking about with regard to facility support. And you can see year over year, depending on different projects, 2014, 15, 16 would have been the Sanford Health Athletic Complex. 2018, 19 would have been, and a little bit into 20 would have been El Devron Tower. 2020, you would have had the start of the indoor practice facility, and also the Peltier complex was something that was being talked about. So depending on whether or not there are building projects on board, that number will fluctuate greatly. I think we can go to the next slide. So as I said before, donors, they not only want to control where their gift goes, whether it's for scholarship or how it's how that scholarship is administered in terms of what type of student. But many of our donors also want to see their funds, their gift available, not just for today, but in perpetuity, so far into the future. So as we're thinking about developing memorandums of understanding, we try to think 50 years, like how can this scholarship be used 50 years from now? How can this department fund be used 50 years from now? But you can see the result of that, of our increased fundraising efforts, as well as the oddly successful market, which seems a little bit of a disconnect from some of the things that have been happening in terms of Main Street and COVID and things like that. But the market has continued to go up and up and up. So increased fundraising paired with a strong market has resulted in our endowment increasing from 134 million to over 300 million. And I don't know what the last count was, but I thought more recently I'd heard it was right around 324. We can go to the next slide. Not surprisingly, our foundation budget has also increased dramatically. So I think there are lots of reasons why we weren't experiencing the type of success that we were having before, but fundamentally we changed our model from being more broadcast general outreach to folks to being very specific, targeted, personalized one-to-one conversations. But to do that takes staff. And so that's where you've really seen the growth in the development staff, as well as some of our supporting staff to make that happen. So our budget has grown pretty dramatically since 2016. But again, I think the proof is kind of in the pudding. We've grown the budget, but the results have grown exponentially from there as well. We can go to the next slide. And this is just kind of a comparison of comparing the foundation budget, which is the white line, with how our support to campus has increased over the same amount of time. I think talking to Allison Peterson, our Senior Vice President of Finance and Operation, I think she calculated that for every dollar invested in the foundation budget, we're returning 3 to campus now, which we're pretty proud of that fact. You can go to the next slide. All right. So that's a little bit of my dog and pony show to talk about who we are and what we do and who's doing it, what our partnership has been, and what are the things that we can do together to continue our success and increase that success on behalf of the institution. And then just kind of a snapshot about what the results of that success has been over the last 5-6 years. And we certainly hope that that will continue to increase over time. We appreciate our partnership with you guys, and we very much appreciate both the challenges that you have on campus, as well as just the opportunity to showcase the really remarkable things that are happening. I'm happy to take any questions. I also know that there's a Matt Lean on my team. He's one of our managers, is also on. So if there's something that he can answer, I'm sure he'd be glad to jump in as well. If there's a Giving Day question, we also have Kim Domholt on. So she could maybe help as well. Any questions? And if no questions, you can have 10 minutes back.
Well, I have a question. I'm wondering about the advisory board that you talked about, and what that is, and if there's any advice in forming those advisory boards and how they function.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So when I'm talking about advisory boards, I'm actually talking about campus advisory boards. So there are many departments on campus. There are colleges on campus. There are industry advisory boards on campus. And where we really find is that we have alumni who want to be more involved. They're interested in kind of knowing more about the nuts and bolts of how things are working. They want to learn about it and contribute their expertise. For instance, this week, the College of Engineering Advisory Board is meeting, and they have a pretty exciting board of about 25 people, very highly successful people in their careers across the United States, and either virtually or in person, they come back to NDSU twice a year to hear about what's happening in the college and how they can help. They're kind of a sounding board for the dean about, how we can continue to advance the interests of the College of Engineering. So that would be an example of, if we don't know what all those are on campus. We know that they exist, but we don't know where they exist or what they are. But that is an opportunity for alumni to get involved.
There is a question in the chat. Do we get an alumni list from the college development officer? Oh, Monique, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. So the college development officer can help facilitate that process. But what happens is there's actually a form or link, and the link may actually be on the resources section of our webpage for the foundation. I might ask Kim to see if she can locate that quickly, if she has a minute. But so they can work to fill that out. And basically it's, what are you looking for? And maybe you're looking for all the chemistry alums, for instance, and you want to send a newsletter. So that information can be pulled. And then, or I think one of the recent ones, like the College of Science and Math is hosting an event in which they would like to invite some alums. So filling out a request for that information, tell us what the information is being used for. Thanks, Kim. And then how that can be, how you plan to distribute that. If it's an email, we actually distribute the campus emails, the newsletters and things of that nature. So it's just kind of understanding how that's going to be used. From time to time, somebody will want to do fundraising with a list. And that's kind of one of those areas where, remember, the university has a contract with us to do the fundraising. And so if you check fundraising, then it's really just kind of like raising your hand for me to take a look at it, and then just really want to understand, like, what does that mean when you guys want to use it that way? Probably the most common thing I see is that in newsletters, folks want to include a page that if an alum, they want to make sure people know that if they want to give back to that department or that area, which is great. I mean, please spread the word. But if it's something a little bit different, like, well, I want to start making phone calls to people who are alums from chemistry, for instance, that's a little bit different. And so then we would want to work with you on that, because there are designations, for instance, that we sometimes get from people where we have their names and addresses or phone numbers or whatever, but they've let us know, like, I don't want email. I don't want any email, or I don't want certain kinds of emails, or I don't want phone calls. Also challenging because then how do we communicate with them as well, right? But we need to be sure that we're abiding by what our alumni and donors are wanting. And so we just try to navigate that with you guys. Our goal is to try to find a way to say yes. So it's not to put up roadblocks, but sometimes the answer may not be as straightforward as might be helped. So I guess I would say is ask for the information, tell us why you want it, and remember our goal is to try to get to yes. All right. I would just encourage people, if you are in a unit that has a gift officer, if you haven't met them yet, or you don't know who they are, please go and meet them. Ask for a little bit of their time, or if you have department meetings, ask them to come to your department meeting and talk about what they do and how they can work with you. If you know people that you have been in your class or advised or things like that, and you think, oh, I wonder if this would be a good person for a gift officer to be talking to, get the name to the gift officer. We can do a little bit of homework and find out if, through the fabulous internet and all that's being tracked on us, we can find out, like, hey, is that somebody we should be talking to? Or what do you know that we don't? So I just want to say thank you. Appreciate people's participation today. And we just, more than anything, it's Thanksgiving time. I just want to thank you for your guys' partnership with us. It's been a joy for me for the last 7 years, and it's been an exciting ride the last 5 years for sure, with the exponential growth that we've experienced and the impact that we see on campus. So thank you.
Thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time today. Really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yes. Thanks everybody for coming. Hopefully we'll see you next time. Have a great day.